What if the most unbelievable stories are not born from spectacle, but from tenderness? And what if a single birthday celebration quietly rewritten behind closed doors became the moment that redefined everything the world thought it knew? Because when whispers began to circulate that Lee Min-ho had personally decorated a home for Song Hye Kyo and twins, it did not sound like ordinary gossip. It sounded like something far more intimate, far more deliberate, and far more difficult to dismiss. The question was immediate and unavoidable. Why would one of Korea's most private, carefully guarded stars step into such a deeply personal role unless something profound had already changed? This story does not begin with cameras or red carpets. It begins with preparation, with intention, with a man choosing presence over performance. Those closest to the situation described a space transformed not by luxury, but by warmth. Soft lighting instead of spectacle. Gentle colors instead of grandeur. A home arranged not to impress the public, but to comfort the people inside it. Every detail said the same thing quietly and unmistakably. This was not about headlines. This was about family. This story isn't over. Subscribe so you don't miss the next chapter. We follow the moments and emotions of your favorite TV stars. Stay with us. Lee Min-ho, long known for his reserved nature and emotional restraint, has always been someone who expresses care through action rather than words. He does not announce affection. He builds it. And if the reports are to be believed, this birthday was not treated as an event, but as a moment meant to be remembered long after the candles were blown out. The decorations were said to be chosen with intention. Elements reflecting Song Hye Kyo's understated elegance rather than extravagance. Familiar touches, calm textures, a setting that felt safe, lived in, and deeply personal. Nothing loud, nothing accidental. And then there were the twins. Not presented as a spectacle, not framed as a statement, but quietly included at the center of everything. Balloons placed at eye level. Soft details designed to delight small hands. A celebration shaped around innocence, not attention. That detail alone shifted the narrative. Because anyone can decorate a house. But to do so with children in mind is a different language entirely. It speaks of responsibility, of care that extends beyond romance, of a man stepping into a space that requires emotional commitment, not public approval. What makes this moment so powerful is not the rumor itself, but the behavior it describes. No press release. No social media proof. No staged visibility. Just preparation. Quiet effort. And a celebration that remained intentionally unseen. Those who have followed Lee Min-ho for years know how carefully he guards his private life. He does not invite speculation. He avoids unnecessary exposure. And yet, this story suggests something remarkable. That he chose to show up anyway. Not as a star. Not as an icon. But as a partner. Song Hye Kyo, equally known for her grace and discretion, has always protected her emotional world with the same discipline she brings to her craft. If this celebration happened, it would only make sense that it did so beyond the reach of cameras. Because for her, meaning has always mattered more than validation. Together, their shared silence becomes the loudest confirmation of all. This is not the behavior of people chasing attention. It is the behavior of people protecting something fragile and real. Fans reacted not with chaos, but with awe. Because the image painted by this story was not sensational. It was domestic, grounded, human. A far cry from the dramatic narratives often attached to celebrity lives. And perhaps that is why it resonated so deeply. It offered a different kind of fantasy. Not passion under flashing lights, but stability behind closed doors. Whether this birthday celebration was exactly as described or shaped by imagination, one truth remains undeniable. The idea of Lee Min-ho creating a safe, joyful space for Song Hye Kyo and twins feels believable because it aligns with who they have become. Not younger versions of themselves shaped by public demand, but adults defined by intention, boundaries, and emotional clarity. This is not a story about excess. It is a story about effort, about choosing to celebrate quietly, about building memories instead of moments, about love expressed not through words, but through preparation. And if this really happened, then the greatest revelation is not that a house was decorated. It is that a life may already be shared, not announced, not displayed, but lived. Sometimes the most powerful love stories do not arrive with confirmation. They arrive with care so intentional, it leaves no room for doubt. And if Lee Min-ho truly decorated a home for Song Hye Kyo and twins, then it was not a performance for the world. It was a promise kept in silence. A reminder that the deepest celebrations are the ones no one else is invited to see. And it is in that silence that the story grows even more haunting. Because what followed the birthday was not denial, not confirmation, but something far more powerful. Normalcy. No sudden appearances. No calculated public moments. No attempts to steer the narrative back into control. Life, at least from the outside, went on exactly as before. And that is what unsettled people the most. If nothing had happened, there would have been urgency to correct the story. If it were false, distance would have been emphasized. But instead, there was calm. A steadiness that suggested nothing needed to be explained. Which leads to the most uncomfortable question of all. What if this was never meant to be revealed because it was never meant to be extraordinary? What if decorating a house, planning a birthday, and centering it around warmth rather than spectacle was simply routine? The idea alone shifted how people viewed everything that came before. Suddenly, past moments felt heavier. Shared glances at events. Mutual respect spoken in interviews. Long stretches of private time that were never accounted for. What once looked like coincidence began to resemble consistency. But the story does not rely on proof. It relies on alignment. Lee Min-ho has always been known as someone who commits fully, or not at all. He does not perform half gestures. If he steps into a space, he steps in with intention. And if he were to create a home environment designed for peace, safety, and children, it would signal a level of emotional grounding rarely seen in public narratives about him. Song Hye Kyo, equally, has reached a stage in her life where spectacle holds little appeal. Her choices in recent years have reflected depth over display, privacy over performance. If she were celebrating something meaningful, it would make sense that it happened quietly, protected from intrusion. Together, the picture that emerges is not dramatic. It is domestic. And that is precisely why it feels so shocking. Because fans are used to extremes. Breakups announced. Relationships denied. Love stories marketed or dismantled in public view. What they're not used to is a story that unfolds without permission. A story where the most important moments happen off camera. If children were present at that celebration, whether real or symbolic, it changes the emotional weight of everything. It reframes the narrative from romance to responsibility, from attraction to partnership, from fantasy to foundation. And that is why this rumor refuses to fade. Not because people want scandal, but because they recognize stability when they sense it. The image of a house gently prepared, of a birthday shaped around comfort and innocence, taps into something deeply human. The desire for safety, for belonging, for love that does not need witnesses. Whether this story is fully accurate, partially imagined, or built from fragments of truth, it reflects a larger reality. That Lee Min-ho and Song Hye Kyo are no longer characters in a public fairy tale. They are adults who understand the cost of exposure and the value of silence. And if something real exists between them, silence would be the most honest way to protect it. Perhaps that is the final twist. That the most convincing love stories are not proven by photos or statements, but by the absence of both. Because people who are secure do not explain themselves. People who are settled do not perform happiness. People who are building something lasting do not invite the world inside while the walls are still being painted. So the question remains, suspended gently rather than shouted. Was this birthday just a celebration? Or was it a glimpse into a life already being lived? Until one of them chooses to speak, the truth will remain where it seems most comfortable. Behind closed doors. Within shared routines. Inside a home arranged not for attention, but for love. And maybe that is exactly where it belongs. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe so you don't miss out next episode.